Bring me a new name.
Jack Graham is open to a trade out of Richmond if a rival club tables the right offer, Gerard. So the imminent arrival of the GWS pair, Jacob Hopper, Tim Taranto, has been the trigger for as many as I'm told 5 clubs to express their interest in Jack Graham. Now, he's only 24. He's got one more year to run on a contract, Jack Graham. And as we sit here now, let's be honest, he's far more likely to start punt road because the Tigers are looking to strengthen that midfield position rather than tread water in that part of the ground. So Graham, though, this year, despite having a relatively skinny midfield, did spend large portions of his games this year on a half-forward flank and is said to be gettable if another club franks that interest by putting its cards fully on the table with an attractive offer. Now, because he's contracted, Richmond would surely dig in to hold a player who I think it's widely accepted is considered a captaincy candidate in the years to come as well. He's won 2 premierships. He's a South Australian. He's a runner-up in last year's Jack Dyer medal. He signed a 3-year contract, Gerard, in 2020 to stay in yellow and black, and he did weigh that up at the time because he had some significant interest from Carlton and from Adelaide as well. But it's now the Crows' crosstown rivals, Port Adelaide, that you'd have to say remain in the market for an established midfielder. They went hard for Josh Dunkley. They missed on him. Here is a South Australian who is seen to be gettable, and they've got the cash to spend. I mean, who knows? Maybe the high pick that Richmond will get for Graham makes the Hopper deal happen. I mean, the Taranto deal is said to be progressing well. The Hopper one a little bit more complicated at the moment by the fact that he's contracted a course and what GWS would command for him. So, look, it's one of those ones that you'd say is unlikely to happen, and I think Richmond supporters would be happy to hear that, but it's a possibility at the moment. The door is ajar.
Do you think Richmond recognised that when they tipped their hand on bringing 2 in that it might unsettle a few at the club?
I think so. Yeah. I think there's always a cause and effect with these sort of things in the trade space. And not forgetting that Trent Cotchin maybe has one more year left in that engine room as well, so they've got a plan for the future. I think the last thing they would want is to have a player like Jack Graham leave when they're bringing these 2 players in. But anyway, a lot of clubs have sounded them out. They were a bit surprised to hear that Jack Graham, or learn this year that Jack Graham wasn't spending large portions of game in that midfield, and he has had some injury problems as well. But he's been a super player at the Tigers.
A St Kilda name?
Yeah, Jack Bytel now has some interest from Essendon. He's weighing up his playing future at the moment, so he remains without a contract for next season. A difficult 2022 season, it must be said. He failed to play a senior game. He was taken with pick 41 in the 2018 draft, has played 16 games in 3 seasons. Now, 13 of them came last year where he got a foothold in that side, but injury, form have meant he hasn't been able to cement a spot in Brett Ratton's side. Now, the Bombers have reached out, Gerard. They're looking to attract players while still searching for a senior coach, which has been immensely difficult for them. I'm told the 22-year-old Jack Bytel not considered a main priority at Tullamarine, but they've registered an interest.
Okay, and some other club scenarios which you're monitoring.
Yeah, so just on the Saints, Hunter Clark, he does, we touched on him yesterday, does now appear set for North Melbourne, who have had Griffin Logue on the hook, I'm told, for quite some time now. This isn't a new revelation here. This goes back some way. Darcy Tucker also bound for Arden Street. Rory Lobb, I still think, gets to the Bulldogs. Blake Acres to Carlton. So it's a fair amount of talent leaving the building at Fremantle, and potentially Acres hurts them the most. The Dockers obviously lasered in on Luke Jackson at the moment, but also have an interest in Gold Coast out of contract forward Josh Corbett, his son's teammate Jeremy Sharp, and that leads us to the Suns, which we went into a bit of detail on yesterday. Those names now starting to come out in regards to that preemptive strike on their pay structure as well to avoid an exodus of sorts in the years to come and also to make room for a big fish. So Fiorini, we mentioned yesterday. Jack Bowes has made the news headlines today as well, potentially departing. Sharp, we just mentioned, a second-round pick in 2019. All these guys contracted for next year. Alex Sexton, only 4 games this year, and the last of his 4-year deal is next season. So I think these are the names that rival clubs might find an interest in, given the fact they're going to be sweetened with those nice picks as well.
Yes, that's the canny clubs probably already had been doing the work, but it does light up when it's in the public environment. And
Brisbane have got a lot to work through, we know that, and we've spoken about this over recent days since Josh Dunkley nominated them as his club of choice. He will join on a 6-year deal. Now, industry figures saying the Lions shouldn't be scared to go into points deficit next year, and that would mean sliding a few spots back with their first pick, given they're looking to shoehorn in a batch of talent in this year's trade and draft window. So if it means that you get Dunkley, Will Ashcroft, who could be the number one pick, Jasper Fletcher in, then those at other clubs are saying, well, it's a small price to pay if you're getting those three in. They'll get a compo pick for Dan McStay, but that could be a third rounder, hopefully a second rounder for them. Darcy Gardner still unsigned as a free agent, but there's some haggling over the length of that deal, given it will be his last decent one. I'm not sure he's going anywhere. And then there's Jack Gunston potentially coming in as a free agent as well. Now, I thought that picture might have become clearer in the early part of this week. It hasn't done. That's still playing out. He's still wrestling with that. And as is Brodie Grundy, nothing
Could that be today?
I think so. I thought it might have been yesterday. Those exit meetings happening at Collingwood as we speak. Look, I think it's widely expected that it happens, that he nominates Melbourne, but we've said that until we're blue in the face, so we just await official confirmation that it hasn't happened as yet.
It's a slightly different scenario to the way this normally plays out, where the player tells the club at the exit meeting. It's been the club telling the player all the way through that he should explore options and then come to us and tell us where you'd like to land.
Exactly. And we know there's been interest from Geelong, who aborted. There has been some interest from GWS as well, but Brodie Grundy wants to stay in Melbourne. The best we can tell, that only leaves one suitor, and they are a very interested suitor, as we've heard from Simon Goodwin recently with you on AFL 360. So all roads lead to the red and the blue, and we can debate whether it's the right one until we're blue in the face again. But hey, here comes a prized ruckman at a discounted rate that wants to play for you. I think you just make it work.
All that matters is that they believe it. At the moment, the rest of us can debate it for as long as we like. Let me, I'll share this one with you, right? I heard Brisbane is going to try to load up even more on this year's draft and try to get pick one off North.
Oh.
Brisbane to get another player at pick one before they have to bid on Ashcroft could set them up for 10 years. You just couldn't get that done.
No, and we were wrestling actually with North Melbourne. How are they going to get all their business done given their draft hand? But then it became clear, didn't it, with the compensation that they were going to be given, the concessions from the AFL, the future second, the future third, the penny drop. That is why they've been so active in the space. Just coming back to Gold Coast for a second here, Simo's text in Sam Flanders to Hawthorn. He will not be part of the selling, I guess, of those contracted players this year. They like him. He's staying long term.
Matt wants to know, could Max Lynch be leaving Hawthorn possibly on his way back to the Pies?
Way back to Collingwood? Well, write him down. There's nothing wrong with that. Haven't heard that. No, that fits the category of haven't heard, but that's why we write it down. Homework.
Mega trade bell from the Finley Flyer. Ollie Henry to Geelong for Brendan Parfitt.
Yeah.
Brendan Parfitt.
Yes.
As fair as you'll find.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the Parfitt side of the equation, but clearly the Ollie Henry side of the equation is real. We've spoken about this a lot over the trade bell this year, Gerard. The contract not to his liking at Collingwood. There's the sibling link at Geelong. And in fact, Jack has gone on the record to say how much he would like to play with Ollie down at the Cats going forward. The Cats had some big fish to fry. They wanted Hopper, they wanted Grundy. Now it could be Ollie Henry. Now it could be Tanner Bruin. So while their season's ongoing, obviously, that picture lacking some clarity at the moment.
This takes a bit to keep up with. I'll read it because I like the work that Andrew has done on it, right? So he's set up every leg of a trade deal here. Carlton send pick 10 to the Eagles for picks 20 and 26, total points, 13.95 versus 16.41. That's the layer of detail I love from the modern fan.
God.
Eagles then send pick 10 and 38 to the Lions for Devon Robertson, Jackson Pryor, and a future second-round pick. Lions then use picks 10 and a future first-rounder for Josh Dunkley and pick 37. That will leave the following. Lions picks 15, 33, 37, and 38. McStay compensation early 30s and possibly Gardner late 30s plus 44, which is 4,060 points. Ashcroft will use up just under 3,000 of those, which will leave 1,200 for Fletcher. Do the Eagles then look at trading a Duggan or a Gaff to get some picks back in the early 20s?
Jesus.
Salute to Andrew. I've read that 6 times to try to take it all in. I love the depth of the thinking, and that just shows how sophisticated the modern trade fan is.
Exactly. They are clued in, Gerard. No doubt about that. I need him to draw a picture, though, Andrew.
Good stuff.